It's become public knowledge to all of us that the relationship between Alek Manoah and the Blue Jays front office is fractured. But the real question is it fractured beyond repair? And one report that we saw indicates that it may be. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And before we get into this scary Alek Manoah update that has taken over the Toronto Blue Jays Twitter sphere on this off day, Nick and I are super excited to continue our partnership with Rentals.ca. And if you didn't know, Rentals.ca is Canada's largest apartment hunting network. And to facilitate your renting needs, whether it be homes, condos, or apartments, they're available coast to coast in Toronto, Calgary, Montreal, Vancouver, Ottawa, Winnipeg, and Halifax.
Yeah, and the website is super clean, super easy to use. And we've said this before, Peter. I know you've used the website, so you can vouch for it. My brother has also used it. So it's a phenomenal product. And they have a special offer for kind of everyone, a big contest going on. So they have a chance, and you viewers have a chance, to win a month's of free rent, upwards of $2,500 if you're 18 or older. So make sure to check out the link in the pinned comment and the description as well, because we want to see one of you guys win that, and that would be phenomenal. It would help us out a ton, so make sure to do that. But Peter, very, very crazy, scary news today.
Yeah.
Alek Manoah, the situation's getting worse. Manoah relationship with the team seems to be fractured. You said it in the intro, beyond repair might be a little thing here. And this is something that, some people are talking about on Twitter, but we haven't heard too much about. And I found this from a report from Gregor Chisholm, who is a very, very notable reporter. And it's kind of within an article that highlights the timeline of the Alek Manoah situation. So this was, of course, and I'm just going to, it goes through the whole timeline. I'm just going to go through a little bit of a quick version here. August 25th is when all this started. Manoah arrives in Buffalo. The following day, GM Ross Atkins tries to explain his absence by stating both sides agreed to put him through a series of medical tests. No structural damage was found. It was just to make sure he was in the best possible physical place before he went back. And then Peter, this is the new stuff. So this was about a week ago. The report came out, I think, yesterday or a couple days ago. So this is very, very interesting. The second paragraph is key, but I'll go over the first one too. So Sportsnet is the first report, of course, that Manoah is an expected pitch. We've already been, over that, and how Ben Wagner went on a podcast saying that, the camp was upset that he was sent to the minors. This is a new report at the bottom here. The Star confirms the initial report, and while doing so, it's revealed that Manoah underwent even more medical tests the week prior at his request. The insinuation appears to be that Manoah was hurt, which could involve a grievance over service time, but no structural damage was found. Messages to Manoah's representative went unanswered. Now, when I was reading this, Peter, I don't know, I was a little bit shocked. This is brand new information. It seems that Manoah's camp requested that they check for injuries for, multiple reasons. What are your thoughts on this? This is a bit of a, bombshell report here. I don't even know where to start. We'll go over it here, but that is very, very interesting. So maybe he was hurt this whole time, or at least he seems to think so, although the tests disagree.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I said this early on in the year when he just didn't look right, and I said it could be a dead arm. It could be arm fatigue, and most times that just doesn't appear when you're looking for structural damages in MRIs and ultrasounds and all that. So I looked at that. I looked at Alek Manoah, and just the eye test told me that he was battling something, or that he didn't look right all year long. And that'll do it for you. You throw a lot of innings. The year before, he threw 111 innings in his rookie year in the with the Blue Jays. And then the next year, he jumped to 196. Now, this was a guy that skipped a lot of levels in the minor leagues, who didn't pitch too much in the minors just because he was that good. He got rushed up to the big leagues, and for good reason. He didn't look out of place in his first two full seasons with the Toronto Blue Jays, and I'm sure they wouldn't have changed a thing in his upbringing in major leagues, in the major leagues. So I was happy with the way that they were deploying him. I thought that he was going to be a horse in this rotation for a long, long time. But when you make that jump, especially as a young player, from 111 innings to 196 the year after that, that's an 85 innings jump. That's huge. That's a big workload that he's really putting on himself there. So I could see how he just wasn't the same player coming into the season. And you could see that his arm was not electric as it was the year before. You could see that his velocity wasn't exactly there. It wasn't that much off. It was maybe 1 or 2 miles an hour off, but that could be the big difference between striking a guy out and being taken 450 to dead center. So I could tell that he just wasn't right from the get go. I could tell that there was some fatigue going on there. Now, I'm not going to say I was right. I'm not going to give myself a pat on the back because this is just a terrible situation for both sides. And there's always two sides to a story. There's always someone that wants to shoulder the blame or someone that should be shouldering the blame. But I think both parties are at fault here. I think the Blue Jays handled this poorly. I think Manoah handled this poorly as well. And hopefully he can iron things out. And hopefully they do work things out because this would be one of the biggest falls from grace that I've ever seen in my Blue Jays fandom.
Yeah, and again, in case you missed it from our last video, obviously Manoah failed to report to AAA because he was upset. He hogged the roster spot, and all the blame's kind of getting put on him. And then it's just weird that he requested medical tests. So you could be right. No structural damage was found, and who knows? Maybe with a fatigued arm, there wouldn't be any structural damage. So I don't know. It's a very very interesting thing, and you kind of mentioned it. Peter, this was his 2023, baseball savant stats. His average velocity was 93. And then you look at his 2022, and that is one of the most dramatic changes from year to year. And you don't see this happen with starting pitchers as often. It happens with some hitters, of course, and it has happened before, but this was such a dramatic, decrease in every single aspect of his pitching, including the advanced analytics. His fastball velocity is down. It goes from 94 to 93 this year. And Peter, I don't even know where to begin with this. It's just very, very surprising that a guy of his caliber and a guy that in the beginning of the season we thought was going to be our ace of the future has kind of fallen off a cliff. So, any quick final thoughts on this before we move on to a quick other topic here? So many Blues now compared to so many Reds, which sad.
Yeah, it is sad to see, and you never want to see a guy just fall off a cliff like that, especially not after having such a great season like he did. And I do believe that he'll get back to what he was, at least a kind of a semblance of what he was, just because I think he's got that dog in him, and I think he's got that competitive nature. But man, it's just hard to see. This was a guy that we expected to be a pillar of that Blue Jays rotation for years to come, and hopefully he can get back to that. But right now, this relationship seems to be fractured beyond repair. The two sides don't seem to be communicating at all, and definitely not well on that front. So hopefully they can figure something out and iron it out there because I still believe that Alek Manoah has a big role in this team to play going forward. I mean, look at the rotation right now. It's an aging rotation. As good as they've been, you got Kevin Gosman, who's nearing his mid 30s. You got Hyun-Jin Ryu, who's going to be a free agent. Chris Bassett, also nearing his mid 30s. And Yusei Kikuchi in his early 30s. So everyone is getting up there. You don't know if that production is going to be able to sustain itself. Whereas in Alek Manoah, you have this 25-year-old who has had worlds of success at the major league level, who suddenly you just can't rely on. I think Bowden Francis is going to be a guy going forward that could contend for that fifth starting spot, but not much more than that. You need Alek Manoah to be at least a third starter going forward, and I'm putting the pressure on him right here. He said pressure something you put in your tires. Go ahead and prove it, man. We need you going forward. I hope he figures it out because he was one of my favorite players to watch last year, and it was just a whole sad situation and something that you didn't want to have to witness this year.
Yeah, and Ricky Tiedemann's another guy that hopefully won't or will be able to be good for us going forward. But one quick thing before we wrap up is, Peter, it's kind of insane what happened yesterday with the way the last whole series worked out. We're just going to quickly touch on this before we wrap up. The Jays playoff odds have went from 30%. It's bonkers what's happened here. And let's just have a quick look at it. This was tweeted by Nick Ashburn. The Blue Jays playoff odds chart is unreal. The Rangers series looked like it had ended them, and we certainly thought so. And it's been erased in 3 days in a series against the Red Sox where we sweep them in 3 games. The Mariners get swept. The Rangers get swept. Peter, I don't even know how on earth this happened. Our playoff odds are back up to 78%, and just like that, baseball sucks us back in, and we're looking in. We're in a wild card spot. We're in the second wild card spot, and a game and a half up on the Mariners, half a game up on Texas. We don't own either of those tiebreakers, but I mean, Peter, we control our own destiny again. We have a big series starting against the Yankees. We're going to see Garrett Cole. We're going to see some very, very good pitchers against the Rays as well. But any quick thoughts on how quickly baseball can change? And, our sentiment stays the same. Who knows if this team we probably don't think they have the capability of winning a World Series. That being said, let it ride.
Well, to be fair, I mean, we never admitted that they were out of the race, and you'd be foolish to go ahead and do so just because of the schedule and the way that it's lining up. I still think they're going to make the playoffs, but this team, I was kind of hoping for the opposite. Now I can't believe I'm saying that. I can't believe I'm saying that I want the Jays to miss the playoffs. But if they go ahead and make it, and they just, I don't know, they managed to win a game miraculously in there. I wouldn't say miraculously, but let's say they managed to win a game. What's stopping the Blue Jays front office from just running it back? What's stopping Blue Jays ownership from bringing in the same front office, bringing in the same coaching staff, and letting it ride for next season? So I don't think this team was built the right way. In theory, it was built the right way. I mean, their defense was much better. Their base running was supposed to be much better, but those things haven't necessarily come to fruition, at least not for the base running.
Yeah.
And all those little things that they focused on just didn't really play out the way that the Blue Jays expected it to. I think they tried, they made the right moves, they pulled the right strings in order to create a successful environment and build a winning team, but it just didn't happen. A lot of guys underperformed and a lot of guys just didn't answer the bell when called upon. Now, can they turn it around for next year? I'm not sure. I just don't know if this team has that capability inside of them to go ahead and do that, but if they go ahead and go on a run, I guess all is forgotten. And if they actually do manage to go on a run and win the World Series, this would truly be the most bipolar, weird season that I've ever witnessed in any sport for any team. This would just be ridiculous. Now, I know I've only been around for 23 years, so I haven't seen the end all be all when it comes to sports, but this has just been ridiculous when it comes to up and downs. I mean, we were dead in the water 3 days ago, and now we're talking about a sweep and being in that wild card 2 spot. It just doesn't make sense to me, Nick. I kind of want the agony to stop, but I'm also sick for it, and I want it to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking the more positive approach. Let's go ahead and try to at least get deep into the playoffs. I think I'd be happy with, just because of how crazy this season has went. And you make a good point about the no changes. I mean, if we get swept or lose, even just lose the wild card series, then I think changes will happen. Hopefully, either way. But that'll wrap
I'd
up the
like to
video.
believe.
Yeah, let us know what your thoughts are on the Manoah situation. And I mean, the Jays are off today. They play tomorrow, and who knows what will happen from here. We're not going to make any predictions. We're just going to ride it out. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you tomorrow in a very, very important series with only a few games left, 10 or so. See you tomorrow.